an alto, but all right, good job. Thank you. I really appreciate you taking the time to let the tech team get our Zoom people involved, because we don't want to leave them out, definitely. They are a part of who we are and a part of this gathering on Sunday morning. So good morning, I am Heather Norby. I'm the Spiritual Life Director for this church. I am also a seminarian at Meadville Lombard Theological School. That means that you can't yet call me Reverend. I'll get there someday, in a few years, we hope. Okay, so we're in our sanctuary today. Yay! Our UUCL Board of Trustees has updated their COVID policies. Given that Polk County has finally reached low transmission status and the CDC is no longer recommending masks for indoor greetings, we have updated our policy to a mask optional one. That means that you certainly can wear one if you are comfortable, but you don't have to outside or inside. It also means that here in this caring community, we respect people and the choices they make to mask or not. We all have different comfort levels and different health risks. Just please be sure to ask one another what they are comfortable with before getting too close. And as we already did, we are going to sing today, so please space yourselves comfortably or wear a mask if you'd like. All right. Oh, and additionally, of course, if you feel sick or have any symptoms, please stay home and join us on one of our virtual platforms. Thank you, all of you, for making UUCL a caring community.
Thank you.
Welcome to the worship service of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Lakeland. My name is Mary Saint-Denis. I use the pronouns she and her. We're glad you are here, whether in person or virtually. UUCL is an affirming community, and whatever your gender identity, sexual orientation, race, ethnicity, abilities, or theological beliefs, you are welcome here. We would love to get know you better, so please join us after the service on the patio, or if on Zoom, please say hello through the chat feature. We publish a newsletter every Wednesday, and it is the main source of information for what goes on around here, so be sure to sign up. If you already receive it, please be sure to read it to find out about all of the great things happening around here.
Of special importance, the women's group will still be meeting tomorrow, but not on Zoom. Women's group is going to meet at Circle B at 1 p.m. for crochet lessons. So, if you would like to join them, you can bring a crochet hook and yarn. But if you don't have a crochet hook and yarn, you can still join them, and they will hopefully have something for you to use. Also, in the newsletter, I put out a call for poetry for this month's worship services. Our theme is awakening, and each week we address that in a different way. So that's in the newsletter, those different themes for the week. And so I've asked for poetry that has been written by any of you. So you can go to the newsletter, look at the topics, see what speaks to you, and get me something by the Thursday before that Sunday so that I can incorporate it into the service, as I have done with Jeanette Manning's poetry today. Thank you, Jeanette. Also, just a reminder that next week is potluck, so please bring a dish to share. Also, take a look around. Something's happening. Coming to life, perhaps. I see our ritual artists, Peter and Glenda, have been hard at work and made these flowers and these caterpillars appear. And I wonder how this will change, or evolve, or metamorphosize. Is that a word? Over the month. Curious. Now, let us enter into this sacred space where we celebrate our connected circle of life. Breathe in, feeling the spirit of love in the center of your soul. and breathe out that love towards all your relations. Connected, we are whole.
A reading from John O'Donohue. Beauty, the invisible embrace. We live between the act of awakening and the act of surrender. Each morning, we awaken to the light and the invitation to a new day in the world of time. Each night, we surrender to the dark, to be taken to play in the world of dreams where time is no more. At birth, we were awakened and emerged to become visible in the world. At death, we will surrender again to the dark to become invisible. Awakening and surrender, they frame each day and each life. Between them, the journey where anything can happen, the beauty and the frailty. Let us signify the creation of this sacred space where we join together and awaken to the journey. Let us light our chalice, the symbol of our faith. Today, our chalice lighter is Kelly Justice. We light this chalice for all that is visible and for the curiosity we need to remember the invisible. Please join us in singing and signing the Spirit of Life, hymn number 123.
Now, to honor the weavings of the joys and sorrows that run throughout all of our lives. We engage in this ritual every week as a way to honor the awakening and the surrendering, the visible and the invisible. We invite you up to the chalice table to place stones in the water for the joys and sorrows you carry with you today. The green stones are for your joys, the white for your concerns, and the blue for your sorrows. If you are on Zoom, we will say your name and put a stone in for you so that we all know that we are together and connected, striving towards wholeness. If you want a specific color put in for you, please say so in the chat feature. Otherwise, we will put a green stone in for the folks on Zoom because it is a joy to have them with us. Jeanette up, get us started with the message by reading her poem.
When your dog eats your philosophy homework, does it get all contemplative, suddenly aware of nuance and the magic of sunsets or glowing embers? And why are we not? We glare out from our tightly constructed dens of security, complacency, while wondrous works of nature, of joy, await only our own enlightenment. How to loosen our self-imposed controls, awake to the glowing embers of morning, the cozy gloaming of a springtime eve, and soak up spiritual solace and friendship and the sheer magic all around us. What homework should we be eating?
Let us sing together hymn number 180, Alhamdulillah.
All right, you don't have to grab your books. It's real easy. It's Alhamdulillah, 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 Alhamdulillah. Pretty good. Sounds like this. Let's sit together.
Alhamdulillah. I asked my sister yesterday, who has converted to Islam and lives in an Arabic country, I said, do you use that word? Because sometimes I like it when we sing songs that are, real. And she said, yes, we do. We use it. It means, thank God, or thanks be to Allah. It is an expression of gratitude, much like Alleluia, right? Well, Alhamdulillah, we have such a talented poet like Jeanette in our midst. So yesterday began Ramadan, the Islamic holy month of worship, study of the Quran, prayer, and fasting. Ramadan is a joyous celebration. Its occurrence coincides with the month in which Muslims believe the Quran began to be revealed to the Prophet Muhammad. During Ramadan, Muslims fast. The fast helps believers purify their hearts, renew their faith, seek forgiveness, and increase self-discipline. It is also a time to focus on what is most important in life and to feel gratitude for these gifts from Allah. This practice is akin to the 40 days of Lent that Christians use to reflect, pray, and fast as they anticipate the resurrection of Christ. Religious practices such as these are meant to bring a person closer to the divine, to induce an awakening of the spirit. They require discipline to fast, to pray, to study biblical text and Quranic text, to make time for reflection and deep spiritual contemplation. Maybe we can think of it this way. Like a caterpillar, this is a time to wrap oneself up in the sacred, restricting oneself from the, maybe we call them sins of the materialistic world, so that we may get in touch with what really matters and awaken us as a beautiful, winged creature. As Unitarian Universalists, we don't have such a holy time set aside for purposeful revelation. And we don't have just one sacred text from which we read. we say that revelation is continuous. We say we each follow our own spiritual paths, and so it is up to the individual to pursue such endeavors. But one might argue that such self-discipline is hard to come by, especially these days in a world that overwhelms us with busyness, schedules, programs, to-do lists. Self-discipline certainly becomes easier when we are held accountable by a group of people with which we are in covenant. A group of people whom maybe we eat our homework with together. I love this use of words that Jeanette has given us. What homework should we eat? Because spiritual practice is much more than just doing homework, rather than just studying something to gain knowledge. Eating it might imply that we are fully embodying it. We are learning it and becoming it. We are gaining knowledge about the world and then discerning how our values should look in that world. We are becoming more interconnected with the universe as we understand the ways in which it works and how we ourselves are in relationship with it. To continue our metaphor, we eat our homework like the caterpillar eats leaves. And then we wrap ourselves up in our revelation about the holy so we can emerge awakened. As Jeanette stated in her poem, we need to free ourselves from self-imposed controls. And so we eat and we wrap and we contemplate and figure out what really matters. Perhaps we can only do that when we take some time out of our tightly constructed world and gain some perspective on the miracles of this universe. This past week, I wanted to get in touch with the divine spark, to take some time out and wrap myself up in some of the miracles, the patterns and processes of the universe. But how does a Unitarian Universalist learn more about the divine? There are many ways, and one of those ways is through scientific discoveries which help to unravel the mysteries and miracles of the universe we live in. I consider this to be a sacred text from which to learn. Well, I wanted to know more about this thing that we call time. What is time? Do we as humans have a grasp on it? Time, as we tell it on our clocks, is a tightly constructed concept based on the rate of change of things we can't even see. We feel time happening, we experience it, but how well do we really know time? Certainly, living through a 2-year pandemic has not helped our concept of time. I feel a strange shift in the way my brain grasps time now. How about you? Yeah. So does time unfold? Does it flow? Is it cyclical? Isn't time a part of the miracle and mystery of life? Isn't it that which awakens us and then forces us to surrender? Isn't it that which carries us on our journeys? Isn't time that which gives way to beauty and to frailty? But what is time? Is it divine? Is it a part of God? Does it even exist? We might think it exists because we have clocks, but we have confused clocks with time, say some physicists. Clocks are just counters. They record the way in which we perceive time to go by. But do clocks mark time or make time? If there was nothing in the universe, there would be no events. And would there then be time? On the atomic level, nature counts time independently of humans, giving us a precise and accurate way of measuring time. Based on the frequency of light given off by atoms, or how quickly an atom vibrates, we can mark time on clocks. We also have basic units of time, such as how long it takes for the Earth to rotate on its axis, a day, and how long it takes to revolve around the sun, a year, and we then divide that up and calculate time. But if we think about stars, we understand that we can see their light, but it is not the light that they are radiating now. It is light from hundreds of thousands of millions of years ago. And so time is also related to distance. The map of the universe is interlinked. So many questions. So can we look at the universe as a clock that started unwinding 13.5 billion years ago? Did time only come into existence with space? Or was it always around? Does the universe exist in time, or does time come out of the universe? Physicists who study atoms and particles say that, they wonder, is time the way that particles act built on the patterns and processes of time that already exist, or does time emerge out of the way that particles behave? Well, they say now, they think, it seems to emerge because of the ways everything interacts together. This is not what Sir Isaac Newton first proposed, and certainly Newton's beliefs still hang with us today. He believed that time interacted outside of the universe, that God created it, and the universe was the stage. Then Einstein came along and concluded that time actually is not absolute, that it is interwoven with everything in the universe. Time is another axis in what he thought of as our block universe. And in this block universe exists infinite numbers, infinite information, the past and the future. So I read in Quantum magazine, and I'm trying to explain this multiple ways because it's a lot. So they explain Einstein's theory like this. Time is woven together with the 3 dimensions of space, forming a bendy 4-dimensional space-time continuum, a block universe, encompassing the entire past, present, and future. Einstein's equations portray everything in the block universe as decided from the beginning. The initial conditions of the cosmos determine what comes later, and surprises do not occur. They only seem to. Einstein used this theory to comfort a friend who had just lost her husband. He said, all times coexist and are equally important. So someone has passed on, but the past still exists. The future exists. The whole of time is real and coexists, so the past is just as important. Now, it sounds comforting, but there are some deep philosophical implications for this interpretation. Einstein's interpretation leaves us wondering, well, if everything exists in this block universe, past, present, and future, and is just unfolding, and is already determined and already known, do we have free will? Or is it preordained by God? Well, physicists today, a Swiss physicist in particular, his name is Nicholas Gissen, is working time out in a different way. He says it's important to formulate laws of physics that cast the future as open and the present as very real, because that's what we experience. He says, I am a physicist who has my feet on the ground. Time passes. We all know that. Gissen argues that time in general and the time we call the present are easily expressed in a mathematical language called, and I had never heard of this before, but perhaps some of you have, intuitionist mathematics. So intuitionist mathematics rejects the existence of numbers with infinitely many digits. When intuitionist math is used to describe the evolution of physical systems, it makes clear that time really passes and new information is created. Thus, the strict determinism implied by Einstein's equations gives way to a quantum-like unpredictability. See, in this intuitionist math, numbers are finite and limited in their precision, but the nature itself reveals the numbers as time unfolds or flows. So this means that at the beginning of the universe, infinitely precise knowledge did not exist. Numbers are processes, rather than the traditional view that numbers are completed entities. They reveal themselves. So many physicists and mathematicians who have engaged with Gissen's arguments think that this has some potential, that it actually does bridge the conceptual divide between Einstein's determinism and the inherent randomness at the quantum scale. So let it be known, although it's probably obvious, that I am no way a physicist or mathematician. I never engaged beyond basic college algebra, and I never did take a physics class. So you're not going to get an extensive and in-depth explanation of all of this from me. I did the best I could. So I guess that's why I am eating my homework now. I'm wondering about this thing we call time and how it works. And why? Because I hold a theology that says that God is change, and that we as human beings, can create that change. Thus, it seems counterintuitive to me to accept a theory of time that says the future is predetermined. And so as difficult as it is for me to comprehend physics and the theory of numbers and mathematical equations, I know that as sacred text, I need to discipline myself to study the physics of time and find out what it is revealing to scientists about the world. I need to eat it up like the caterpillar eats the leaves, to wrap myself up in its implications, contemplating how I should be in the world, how I should express my values given what I know about reality and what the divine actually is. It matters what we believe. I understand that there are underlying processes and patterns that sustain life. We are awakened by time, and we surrender by time. But the hows and whys in between are not yet determined, I believe. We, and the choices we make and the values we live, are the events that contribute to their manifestation. So alhamdulillah, let us be grateful for our ability to shape change with love. Jeanette's poem invited us to soak up spiritual solace and friendship and the sheer magic all around us. And you know that I like to do some more interactive, more contemplative things in worship service. So I'm going to invite you into a little bit of, what should we call it, study time? Homework eating time? Time to allow for us to gather new information to help us awaken. Most of you have cell phones. If you don't, you have thoughts in your own head, and that is good too, based on your experiences. And I want you to really think about time. What it means to you, what it means to your theology, and how you are in the world. And maybe on your phone you can Google the physics of time, or a poem about time, a quote about time, something that is deep and meaningful to you. Maybe you think time is linear, or maybe it's cyclical, or maybe, as Dr. Who says, it's wibbly wobbly. So I'm going to give you, we're going to play some quiet music. I'm going to give you time to look, to study the texts right? We have a lot of sacred texts to draw from. Give you about 5 minutes to find something on time that you can share in, let's say, under a minute or two with everybody else, okay? So we'll play this music, you will research, you will study, you will eat the leaves, and then we will share together. Any questions? Awesome. Justin will get our music going, and we will sort of, what are we doing? We're like caterpillars yet, eating the leaves, getting ready to go in that chrysalis, which I'm told will happen next week. Anyway, study time. share with us, and try to keep it under a minute. The more of us that share, the more dynamic it becomes, the more dynamic our learning and our spiritual awakening becomes. So please allow time for others to share. So are you first?
I'll jump
Our
right in.
music director's first.
How you doing? I am a physicist and a mathematician and a musician. We do a lot of stuff with time. I want to awaken you to a reality you possibly didn't know. Prior to the invention of the train, all time was local time. People measured their time with sundials. And some cultures, the sun always rose at 6 and always set at 6. During the summer, your hours were long. During the winter, your daylight hours were short. And so even our idea of an hour being 60 minutes and a minute being, minutes and seconds, we culturally stretched and shrank those throughout the year. We are after all biological creatures. When trains were invented, people were really confused about how they could travel east to west, and it would take 15 minutes on the train, but they'd get there and their watches were off by 3, 4, 5 minutes from the local time. You've, of course, maybe flown and experienced the same thing yourself. Thank you.
This is from Judy Pell on Zoom. She doesn't know who the quote is from, but she wrote, "Time is like a river. You cannot touch the same water twice, because the flow that has passed will never pass again. Enjoy every moment of your life." Thank you, Judy.
I put in time on Facebook just to see what come up. And just a little thing here. Definition of time. Time is slow when you wait. Time is fast when you're late. Time is deadly when you are sad. Time is short when you are happy. Time is endless when you are in pain. Time is long when you feel bored. Time is most beautiful when you are in love. Every time is determined by your feelings and psychological conditions, not by clocks.
Thank you.
Well, time is an illusion, as Einstein said. And I really got the awareness of that. It was about 30 years ago. I fainted during an x-ray and had gotten Demerol just before that. So I fainted as I'm standing there waiting for the x-ray to be done. And I fainted, and before somebody caught my head, I had taken this long journey. It was months on the sea and in a boat. And it had only been less than a second that from the time I was standing to the time I fell and she caught my head. So I don't know what time is, because that time was a long time, but only a second.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I can say a lot of things about time, but of course, 1 minute, 2 minutes won't, be enough. So I'm gonna try to be short. I was really one of the old services, the question about the God and the belief. Now today is time that this is why I come to this church, the questioning. The important thing is asking the questions, because a lot of things like people build on ultimates. This is the truth. This is the only ultimate truth. This is the perfect explanation of something. And when we ask questions, we see that that's not the ultimate truth. It may be different, or it may be true for that person at that time, the conditions and other stuff. And looking at the history, we heard about the Big Bang, right? That how the universe got formed. They found the Big Bang, and now they think that if they can look back enough, they can see those lights. So like, what is Big Bang? They're looking at the light, right? The stars, she said, the star we are seeing there, that's image maybe from 600 years ago. Why is that? Because it took 600 years for that light to come to us. what is a year? Oh, the time it takes Earth to circle around the sun, right? So, question, is it the time we said like 1 year will be the time it takes Earth to circle around the sun, or this Earth is circling around the sun because we said it should be 1 year, or somebody said, I say that the sun will circle around the sun 1 year and the moon around the Earth 26 days. Or one day you're gonna be 24 hours from sundown to sunup, or sunup to sundown. So that concept is basically whoever decided 24 hours, like the measuring. We're measuring in the inch here. In Europe, they're measuring with centimeters. Oh, there is an international standards organization. We're setting the standards, so deciding things are measured that way. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, as long as we think, we question, we find the things, and there may not be ultimate truth. So thank you for giving me this chance.
Thank you, Baisel.
And I'm going to put in a little bit too, from everything I've come across. Time is relative, and like someone said already, it's much like a river. There's swift moving channels, but there are also back eddies.
Curious.
Well, I don't know what I'm reading, but it was fascinating. This is space-time. In physics, space-time is any mathematical model which fuses the 3 dimensions of space and the 1 dimension of time into a single 4-dimensional manifold. Space-time diagrams can be used to visualize relativistic effects, such as why different observers perceive differently where and when events occur.
Thank you. Joshua, you can speak from there, yeah.
Oh, go ahead. You're standing. I don't intend to. As a retiree with time on their hands, not like when we were working, we judge the time by, is it time to go to this doctor, or is it time to go to that doctor, or do we have enough time left in the day that we don't have any other appointments? The other thing I think about time is, as a nature lover, I think I look at my gigantic cypress tree in my yard, and just now, the time has come for it to begin to break out in new growth again. It has already passed the time when it was very bare and very plain, but now it's becoming beautiful again. And time, it will fill its branches, and then as time passes, it will become dull again, and then it will start again. So that's what I look at as passage of time.
Thank you, Jesse.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. No problem.
That was rhetorical. All this talk of time, an old song keeps running through my head by a group called the Brothers Johnson. The song, nobody remembers the Brothers? Okay. Mark, I thought you would have, anybody. Oh yeah, you do. The name of the song was Time Has Come Today.
And actually, it's the only time that I really think about, because that's all we got. The precious present. Okay, that's one thing. Go ahead, ask me, Heather. What is the most important thing about being a public speaker?
What is the most important?
Timing. And third, a time question.
Oh, no.
And Peter's already groaning. And in my book, a groan's as good as a laugh. If a hen and a half lays an egg and a half in a day and a half, how long would it take a grasshopper with a wooden leg to kick the seeds out of a dill pickle?
2 years.
That's close, but the answer is D, all of the above. Time is a construct that we have come up with.
Yes.
Not just us, but somewhere along the line, somebody said, this is a day, this is an hour, this is a minute, this is a second. And we believed it. Mechanical time has just twisted the world around. I got out of the car, this be very quick. I got out of the car this morning and I looked over and I saw all these gorgeous white flowers in bloom. They weren't there last week. Did you plant them? Somebody planted them a while ago and they're blooming today, and God, they're glorious. Thank you, time. And that's all I have to say for now.
Only Time Will Remain by Crystal Lewis. It's unbranded and unclaimed, elusive and in vain. It ebbs and it flows, wishing away and as it goes, present and past, fleeting and fast. It whispers in the wind to the oceans and back again. It echoes of battle cries where the red rivers once rose. Under the moonlit skies, it witnessed the first breath and ashes last cast. It heals the broken and bruised, has been abused and misused, infinite and untamed. Only time will remain.
To everything there is a season, a time to every purpose under the heaven, a time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, and a time to pluck that which is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to get and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to cast away, a time to rend and a time to sow, a time to keep silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. We're born, we die, and in between it's just filler.
A classic example of age before beauty. Oh, come on, that was good.
So this is from Alice in Wonderland Through the Looking Glass, where Alice has to fight time, and you get to decide kind of for yourself if he is a good guy or a bad guy, and it's interesting seeing time portrayed as a person. These are a couple quotes from the movie. From Time, the person. You can never win a race against me. Without catastrophe, time myself would perish. And then at the end of the movie, Alice says, well, she says two things. And time is many things, but he is not money, nor is he our enemy. And I used to think time was a thief, but now I know time is a gift, every minute, every second.
Thank you.
Time is a four-letter word. It is our individual interpretation to decide if it falls under the category of love or hate.
I think time is eternal, and I just want to express that I'm really having a good time.
I'm going to say alhamdulillah, because I'm so grateful for all of the sharing today. That really, it really does make our time together very special and deepens it with meaning of all sorts, and gets us into that questioning that Faisal talked about that is so important. So why don't we sing together? It's hymn number 1013 in the teal hymnal.
And again, if you don't have the teal hymnal with you, it's not that hard. The lyrics are, open my heart to all that I seek. Let me be part of the love you give. And we got lots of people who know it already. Glenda and Petra.
Are we
You're going to stand up and lead them?
just everybody together?
Yeah, we're going to do everybody together, then we'll break it up.
Oh,
Mary?
we're breaking up.
Right. Goes like this. Open my heart to all that I see. Let me be part of the love you give. Open my heart to all that I see. Let me be part of the love you give. Now we're going to break it up. This group right here, you're going to follow Josh and Petra. That group over there, you're going to follow Mary and Glenda. And Mary and Glenda, y'all come in second. Here we go. You ready, Petra? Josh? Here we go.
We have now come upon the moment when we can share our treasures with this community as an act of faith. When we each give what we can back to life, we serve a greater good, creating a powerful beauty that can change the world. Before we pass the plates, we invite Gail Rushford and Justin Neal up to share with us why they give to this UUCL community.
All right, so I give to UUCL because I benefit personally from the opportunity to come here on Sundays to hear messages that resonate with me and speak to my values. Before I moved here, I wasn't sure how I would find people around here who share my embrace of the UU sources and principles, but I Googled on the UUA website and I found that there was in fact a congregation, a UUCL congregation here. I probably would have moved to this area anyway because of my parents, but it helped my transition a lot to know that I could find a UU community here. Yes, I live in Haines City, but I quickly learned that my community would have to stretch to include most of Polk County. And I do see in the directory that the membership here at UUCL does reflect that this is really a Polk County congregation. So I pledge to UUCL for my own good. I also pledge for the greater good. I think it is important for Polk County to have more diversity of religious thought and representation. I love that our UU sources draw from many sacred and secular texts, just as we saw today with the service. I go all by myself. We aren't all Christian, and we need to make space for that. If UUCL weren't here in Lakeland, Polk County would be missing an important voice in the chorus of religious expression. And people who need us would suffer. As important as it is to give time and money to serve organizations, that serve people directly, I think that keeping our presence alive in the community is a form of service. I also wanted to share that I've begun to consider estate planning. I don't expect it to be needed for a really long time, but I did recently review and update my beneficiaries. So in addition to pledging and dropping money in the collection plate, I've updated my beneficiaries recently to include UUCL, among other organizations that I support. I just think it's important to remember that when we're thinking about the assets that we have to share. My husband and I are spending our money as fast as we dare to, but there may be some left, and so you never know. 30 years from now, there might be people sitting here in this room that might be glad that I was thinking of them.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. Hi, Justin.
First off, I want to apologize for the. Okay, now it's not. Okay, I apologize for the green part. We're figuring that out. Yeah. But if you were watching online, you would see me instead of the green. It's really cool. It just doesn't work here. So I'm working on that.
It's like spring.
We have Brandon thank for those amazing graphics and stuff, which is really cool. You've been doing a great job. But why I give here both of my time and talent and treasure is because I think that this community is something that's really needed in Polk County and in Lakeland. When I moved here 6 years ago, I think now I'm looking at something like that, I was like, okay, it's kind of out of necessity. It wasn't like something I made it like active choice to do. It was where my dad was living, and I kind of had to move to this area, and I was like, all right, I'm moving into a very conservative area. Previously was like openly queer. Hadn't figured out some of the gender identity stuff that I have kind of figured out now, but like I knew I was not straight, so it's like, okay, moving from a very progressive area of like Orange County, Seminole County, Orlando, that area, to here, I was like, okay, all right. But when I found this community, I was like, okay, there are people who are accepting. And as I started to figure out who I am and started to come out and tell people, hey, I don't want this gender thing that people keep putting on me. Can we not do that? Everybody was like, yeah, that's cool. And, I get to use my pronouns, which is like a big thing for me. So I feel like this community is one of the core centers of like what I like to call the core progressive like side of Lakeland, which is, I've said it a couple times to some of my friends, and now I'm going to say it out in public now. I feel like we're kind of becoming the Portland of Florida, which is like the, weird kind of hippie cool place. Yeah, so I'm trying to get that going. I don't know. Keep pushing it now, like, you know, right? I don't know if you like that, but like, yeah. So that's why I give here, because this is like a place where I can be myself and people can be themselves. And it's a place that's focused on change and making the world and our part of the world a better place.
While our ushers pass the plates for your offering, our musicians will serenade us. Alhamdulillah, y'all. I'm looking at the clock and I see, oh, it's 12:15. I wonder how many of you are actually watching the time going, we're late, we're late. Or have we let that go because we're enjoying being together? My stomach says, go to the social hall, it's time, shut up. Okay. So with that, I'll read the quote for our closing words. It's a quote from Eden Philpotts. The universe is full of magical things, patiently waiting for our wits to grow sharper. Thank you. Please join me as we extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of love, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and out into the world.
Go now into the world. Take with you what you've learned about the universe today. Let it encompass who you are and help you decide how you want to be in this world. And remember that you are loved, you are worthy, and you are a blessing.
Computer.